This is gonna be the hardest video I have filmed. Welcome to my channel. Today we are doing a get ready with me, and I'm gonna tell you how I got an alien in my arm while using all my Fenty products. So first off, I want to kind of get this straight. So they came out with the new Fenty foundation and the new brush and the primer yesterday, and I wanted to play around with it today, but I also had a very traumatic experience yesterday after I picked this stuff up. And if you are afraid of needles, if you are afraid of blood, if you are afraid or have phobias of lumps or the doctor's office, please click off of this video now. In other words, we are going to try out some new Fenty products while also using pretty much a full face of Fenty. How I'm going to tell you this story. So let's get right on to this. So I'm going to start off with the Fenty Beauty, the new Soft Silk Pro Filter Hydrating Foundation Primer. I don't even know how I'm going to do this. So first off, let me just tell you the state in which my arm is right now. I can't really bend it. Yesterday, it was hard to bend my arm, but since sleeping, it's almost like my arm is broken, and it's very, very painful in this whole area to move my arm. So if I'm not doing my makeup in the correct way, I'm sorry, but I'm trying my hardest. But it's literally like a one-armed, one-hand makeup challenge. I'm gonna apply my primer with a brush. So let's start off with what I was doing yesterday. So yesterday, I woke up at 5 in the morning to take my dad to the doctor's because my dad has been dealing with a bunch of medical issues, which I'm not going to talk about in this video. But I woke up at 5 in the morning for my dad to go through a procedure, and my mom is a flight attendant, so she was out of the country, so I was basically in charge of my dad. So we go through all of that, and I'm also dealing with some medical issues. So after doing all of my dad's stuff, I had to go to the doctor at around 1:30 yesterday. And then I'm gonna try out the new Fenty foundation brush with the new Fenty foundation hydrating longwear foundation. I got this foundation in the shade one. Oh, I dropped the lid. Oh. Today is also hair washing day, but that's not possible, so that's why my hair is a crazy mess. So going along with my story and trying out this foundation, I wonder if 120 was too light. It'll work. But going along with the story, so I've had some medical problems that I've been dealing with for the last 4 or 5-ish years. So I had to go stop into the doctor's office really quick to get some blood work done. Nothing crazy serious. I just needed to check my like vitamins and all of that mumbo jumbo. I don't really know how I feel about this brush, to be honest. I liked it when nothing was on it, but I don't know how I feel about it with this foundation. That's kind of like my layout of the day. So I had to go to my doctor's appointment at 1:30, and before that it was about 12 o'clock, and my dad needed me to drop off one of his prescriptions at Walgreens. And so I was like, oh hey, let me just take my brother Chase and we're gonna go to Walgreens, drop off the prescription. We can run down to Sephora, pick up my Fenty stuff so I could do a video later, and then I'll go to my doctor's appointment, be really quick, in and out, and then by that time my dad's prescription should be ready so we can pick it up and go home. Well, that did not happen. So I'm going in there, and by no means is this anybody's fault. This is definitely a freak accident. I don't blame anybody. I'm not mad at the situation. I definitely think this is funny. in a really strange way because this is so weird. So I got this phone call that I need to come in and get my blood checked out like 2 weeks ago. But for some reason, I have been really freaked out to get my blood taken. And normally I'm not like that. Normally I have no problems with needles or getting a shot or anything along those lines, except for finger pricks. I hate finger pricks so much. Liking this foundation though, now that I've blended it out. I don't know how I feel about this brush though. I kind of feel like either I use too much product or my nose is being a pain. I did not get to wash my face last night. My skin is paying the price, but I couldn't wash my face last night. I'm like telling my brother like, oh, I'm so freaked out. Like, I do not want to go get my blood drawn today. Like, I don't know, like I'm really freaking out, and it's really out of character of me to be acting that way because I get a shot every 3 months for birth control and sorry, I'm trying to find my Fenty brushes. I have no idea where the concealer brush is. Oh my god, of course it's the last one in there. And I'm gonna take the Fenty concealer in the shade 120. So I'm telling my brother as we're going, like, I'm really freaked out. I don't want to do this. Yada yada yada. Something's not right. I don't know. And so he's like, whatever, like, you'll be fine. And so we get in there and they go to take my blood. Everything's all good. I'm not watching it because I'm really freaked out, but my brother's watching it and everything seems to go fine. It was like super quick and easy, in and out. Like, I was probably in the doctor's office for maybe 3 minutes tops, maybe even 2 minutes. And oh my gosh. So then my brother's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, you were freaking out for nothing. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I was freaking out for nothing. And so we're driving back to Walgreens, which is like 2 minutes down the street from my doctor's office. And I start getting this really odd pain in my arm, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't know, like just an odd like soreness. And then as I'm like driving, I'm like turning the wheel and I'm like, oh, that it kind of hurts for me to like move my arm around. And then I start noticing, and this is in the time span of like 5 minutes after I've gotten this done. And I'm like, oh, this is really weird. Like, I'm just like really freaking out. I'm like, okay, something is not right. And so I start playing with my arm right here, and I'm like poking my arm, and I'm like, oh, that feels really stiff. Like, if I was working out and like, it just feels like super stiff on my arm. Like, this doesn't feel normal whatsoever. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Oh my gosh. And then I'm gonna take the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter powder in the shade Butter. I'm gonna set my under eyes with powder. Testing and telling a story is really hard to do. I'm trying to multitask and it's not really working that well. And then I'm gonna take the Fenty Matchstick in Amber and Starstruck, and I'm just gonna contour just a little bit. I'm trying to test this foundation out to see if I can still layer it up like I can with the regular foundation, or is it gonna get weird? I look pretty pale, that's for sure. I probably should have gotten 150. I love the shade 150. It's so perfect, but it's just a smidgen too dark for me. So I was like, oh, I normally wear hydrating foundations in like the fall and winter, so I'm gonna get a paler shade so that it matches me better, but I don't know. Maybe it will match me eventually. A little bit of Starstruck right over here. And then I'm gonna just put a little bit of the Fenty eyeshadow primer on, just on my lids. Just blending that into the concealer. A little of the Fenty Pro Kisser Luscious Lip Balm on before I start my eyeshadow. and I'm gonna be using the Moroccan Spice palette today. I'm not gonna do, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was gonna say I'm not gonna do a crazy look, but I actually don't know what I'm doing. And I'm also going to use some of the new Jeffree Star brushes. Where were we in this conversation? So I'm starting to get some odd pain, and I'm pulling through the drive-through of Walgreens, and I'm starting to notice like weird things, and like my arm's getting a little tense and stiff. And so I pull up to the Walgreens drive-through window, and there's a sign that says that it's out of order. So I'm like, okay, like looks like we gotta go in. And when I make it into a parking spot, I'm like starting to get really freaked out. And I'm like looking at my brother, and I'm like touching my arm. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like, can you compare my forearms to each other? Cause like, am I just crazy, or am I actually feeling this? And he's like, oh yeah, I do feel it. And I was wearing a shirt that kind of goes like down to here on me. And so I pull up my shirt, and I see these pictures. There is a giant lump in my arm. Now, the pictures don't actually do it justice in my mind, because let me tell you, I have never freaked out so bad in my life of seeing that thing coming out my arm. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what the heck is this? Like, oh my god. There's an alien in my arm and I'm about to faint and freak out, and I don't even know what the heck to do. So my brother is like, oh my goodness, like what the heck? And so I freak out, and my brother's like, all right, well, let's just call the doctor's office. We're right down the street. Let's just call them and see what they think. So we called him, and my brother's talking for me because I was honestly like freaking out. And so I just like grabbed the phone out of my brother's hand, and I'm like, listen, there's like a lump in my arm. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so the girl on the phone's like, okay, like just come back up here. It shouldn't be anything, just we might need to put more pressure on it. Like, just come back and we'll get them to check it out. And so we go back in there, and it's like all nice and calm in the doctor's office, and nothing's really going on. And so the nurse that just took my blood comes, and I pull my shirt up, and her face is like, what? She's like, oh, I've never seen this before. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So at this point, I'm thinking in my head, like, I have some strange freak incident that has happened to me. I am going to die. They're gonna have to fillet my arm open to see like what the heck is in my arm. Am I having like some freak reaction to the needle? Like, what on earth is happening? And so then she goes back and she grabs another nurse, and they look at my arm and they're like, oh, well, let me get the doctor. So I'm like, great. So my doctor, we're like sitting there waiting, and I am freaking out. I don't think I've ever freaked out so bad in my life, ever. Like, I've broken my collarbone, and I didn't even freak out as bad as I freaked out with this. Like, I was, oh my goodness. We're gonna die. There's an alien in my arm. So I'm like calling my mom, calling my dad. I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. Freaking out. Okay, I haven't caught up, but I'm freaking the I'm at the doctor's with my brother, and they took the vitamin D, like my blood, and something happened, and my arm is like swelling up, and nobody knows what's happening to me. look at this alien that's coming out of my arm. I called them and I was like about to go to the emergency room and they were like, oh, well, it's probably your blood clotting. And then they looked at it and they're like, oh, we've never seen this before. I'm like, what the why is this happening to me? They're like, well, let me get the doctor. And then I'm like waiting for the doctor to look at it and be like, you have to go to the hospital. Comparison of my arms.
Ew.
That's so gross. Oh my gosh. I'm having the worst panic attack ever. My hands are like sweating like crazy. Look at this. It's like shiny. Oh my gosh. And so the doctor finally comes back and he's like looking at my arm and he grabs my arm and he's like, oh, does this hurt? Does this hurt? And I'm like, oh, it kind of hurts over there. It doesn't really hurt over here. And he briefly explains what happened. And then he's like, if your fingers turn white or if this lump gets any bigger, you need to call me. And he wraps my arm up and then he says goodbye. Literally as fast as I said that. Like he was just like, all right, whatever. But basically what happened was I had, for whatever reason, whenever they like pull out like an IV or a needle out of your arm, it typically like squirts out like a water fountain. I didn't really know that, and basically like that's why they put a band-aid over like the little needle part after you get an IV taken out or a needle taken out, so your blood isn't like squirting everywhere. So what happens, which is really rare, I basically started bleeding on the inside of my arm. Fantastic, right? That's freaking fantastic. Oh my god. So instead of it bleeding up and out away from my body, it started bunching up inside of my body. Yeah, so that's what that lump is. And my life, my freaking life, what the heck? So that is why I did not really get my video out yesterday, because I was dealing with my arm and it is extremely painful. I mean, it's not like unbearably painful where like I'm crying because it hurts so bad, but it's definitely like a very uncomfortable pain to where like if I move my wrist weird, it starts to hurt, whatever. It's just a tragic accident to say the least. This is nothing that I would wish upon my enemies at all. I do not wish this upon anybody. I just wanted to share a little story time because this is freaking weird, and apparently my arm is gonna turn all black and blue. Right now there's a lot of fluids in my arm right here, and in here like it's very squishy. Also, another thing is my hand swole up. It's still kind of swollen, definitely not as bad, but last night my hand turned like purple and got super swollen and I flipped out. I flipped out again. I was like, should I go to the hospital? And I know a lot of you are gonna be like, why did you not go to the hospital? But honestly, I don't want to go to the hospital unless it's like an actual emergency, and if I can't tell it's an actual emergency, I don't want to waste my money going to the emergency room. But jeez, I just can't even believe that this has happened to me. Honestly, like this whole experience, it's just so strange, unlike anything I've ever experienced before. I just don't know, and there is a name for it. I just can't really think of it right now. If I'm not really uploading videos as often, or if my editing seems really weird, I'm trying to do everything pretty much one-handed right now, and it's not the best thing. And then I'm gonna take Mimosa Sunrise Sangria Sunset, and I'm gonna mix these together and use it kind of as a blush. What a freaky, weird accident that happened to me. And the weirdest part was, like, I had this terrible feeling about going to the doctor out of nowhere, and lo and behold, this has happened to me. So right now my arm is like in this little wrap. It is kind of bruising already, even though this is the second day. And then I'm gonna take Fire Crystal. I can't really point at anything either, but I thought it'd be nice and relaxing to just get ready, chit chat, give a little update on my issues, to say the least. And let you guys know that I did get the new Fenty stuff. I'm not neglecting you guys. And then I'm gonna take In the Sun, which doesn't even have an imprint on it anymore. I just love it so much. I'm just gonna blend that into there, and then on my forehead. I love this bronzer so much, and I did not like this brush very much the first time that I used it, but after I started using it, I really can't put it down. All right, I'm gonna do brows, eyeliner, mascara, that whole mumbo jumbo. We'll get to the end. All right, so I just finished the rest of my makeup, but I wanted to take my bandage off to show you guys what my arm looks like right now. It's definitely not as bad, but it's still very lumpy. I do have all the lines from the bandage because I do need to keep it wrapped up, but you can see like the bruising is already starting to come through. This is where I got the shot, but like this hurts so bad to hold my arm up like this, but ew, it's just so nasty. Oh my god, I can't. Well, what I would like to ask you guys is, what do you think your reaction would have been if something like this happened to you? If you've ever had a freak weird accident happen, I would love to hear about it, because you never know what is going to happen until it happens to you. So let me know if you've had any freak experiences that you recall. If you liked this story time, please give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to see the Jeffree Star drama, then it's over here, and if you want a video to recommended by YouTube, it's over here, and if you want to click on my face somewhere over here, you can subscribe to my channel. Also, hit like for my boo-boo.